Drake, man, has been surrounded with some of the best people in his life and people that have elevated him to a level that just is insane. Like the guy's consistency, what's it been now? 2009, I'd say.
9, yeah.
11 years straight of dominance on the charts. And
Correct.
where that dominance comes from is not just from Drake, but the people he's surrounded with. You know, when he met 40, who I'm going to be talking about right now, this is exactly what this topic is about. It's about 40 because he hopped on Kevin Durant's podcast and talked about a lot of things when it comes to how they make music, you know, why Drake is so special, so on and so forth. But before I get exactly into that, what was I going to say? I kind of lost track of what I was going to say. Completely lost track. Before I get into that, I wanted to talk about, you know, the people that Drake has in his life. There you go. Yeah, the people. So he had Lil Wayne. Obviously, Lil Wayne was huge. To be able to promote somebody like what?
No, I'm just checking levels.
Okay, yeah. To promote somebody that's on that high of a level, like Lil Wayne and Eminem. You know, when Eminem signed 50, he was the biggest artist at the time. When Lil Wayne signed Drake, he was the biggest artist at the time.
Correct.
So to have that co-sign and then push an artist is a great setup for an artist, you know. That's what I mean. Drake just had it planned out and set out perfectly. His career was just, the people that surrounding him really believed in him, loved what he's making, and they had an open book, like Birdman said, an open book to do whatever when it comes to music financially. So...
And Drake met these people at the right timing. Like
exactly, yeah. 40, that's what I'm going to go over the 40 when he talks about it on the Kevin Durant.
Everything just...
That's what I'm saying. Timing is important. The people you meet is very important. So on this podcast, 40 talks about the technology involvement, you know, how technology is elevated when it comes to music and how in 2003, 2004, it was very hard to make certain kinds of music. And you couldn't just connect, you know, he was talking about making a piano, you know, how he's good at, you know, playing the piano. And he talked about how, you know, you couldn't just connect a piano to a computer. You actually had to connect it to a bunch of different sources in order to play that and then record it and all that. You know, the old school way where you needed a full-blown studio. And because 40 was so ahead when it comes to technology, he was so in tune with what's next, it allowed Drake to thrive off that. And that's how they made So Far Gone without having this huge multi-million-dollar studio, even though around that time when he was creating it, he eventually got access to Lil Wayne, and Lil Wayne could have gave him, you know, whatever he wanted.
But that's the thing, though, with timing. In 2009, that's when the technology started.
Yeah, technology really started. And then it was kind of, you could look at it a negative way because sales were kind of slumped, music sales, because people kept leaking out albums. I remember because I was doing website stuff, and Thank Me Later leaked probably a week or two before it even came out. Actually, 2 weeks before it came out.
About 2 weeks.
Yeah, which is, you know, that's a huge hit to any artist.
I remember that.
So it could be a negative thing, but if you can flip it into a positive, and that's what 40 did.
But 40 was ahead of.
That's what I'm saying. 40 was ahead of everything.
He knew what he was doing.
He knew, you know, how to get Drake the music he wanted and then how to get it out the way he wanted. And that dictated a lot for Drake's career. And, you know, it's about the people you surround yourself with. Your team is what can make you the biggest possible. If you don't have a good, solid team around you, and this is when I do those What Happened To videos, a lot of these artists run into label issues and they run into managers stealing money from them and they run into, you know, just a lot of
that
personal.
Happens a lot.
Yeah, so when you surround yourself with great producers, great business people, just people that share your vision is very important. So that's why I segued into this. The whole podcast is dope, man. If you guys get a chance, check it out. It's Kevin Durant's podcast. Let me see what it's called. I think it's called The Etceteras. Yeah, The Etceteras with Kevin Durant. It's episode 2 with Noah 40 Shebib. I'm probably mispronouncing that last name. I think it's Shebib, yeah.
Shebib.
Yeah. So 40 not only talks about technology advancement, he talks about, let's see here, how the relationship with Drake and 40 was just, it didn't start out natural. You know, it didn't start out, you know, just smooth. You know, how people think, oh, you meet somebody, it just clicks. He was like, no, it didn't do that. It took a little while for us to get our groove. And he knew that right when they produced So Far Gone, he knew that they were special with each other. You know, that it just works. You know, at that point, he was like, okay, this is the guy that in order to get my vision and his vision off, we need each other. And that's all 40's ever worked with is Drake. And he says he doesn't want to change in the podcast. He says he doesn't want to change working with anybody else, and he doesn't want to do anything else. He just likes what he has with Drake, and that's why Drake's been so successful. You know, we talked about this before the podcast. Having an engineer or a producer with you as an artist stick by you throughout your whole career dictates how long you're in this music industry, I think. And here's some examples. Here's some examples of it going right, and here's some examples of it going wrong.
I want to hear this.
Going right, Drake and 40.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. It's been working for 11 years. Hit after hit after hit, doesn't stop. Eminem and Dr. Dre. Perfect. It's been going right, hit after hit after hit. Eminem's still relevant. Dr. Dre's still relevant. The only time Eminem, to me personally, kind of fell off was when he was working more with Rick Rubin instead of Dr. Dre. I didn't like that sound. That was on the Marshall Mathers LP2, and that was on the what was it, Revival? Yeah, Revival. I didn't know. We already talked about how I don't like that album, and that was with Rick Rubin too. So that's when you sway away from what you're normally used to sonically in music or anything in life, really. That's like in the last podcast I talked about consistency. Consistency can sometimes make you stagnant, and sometimes you want to try out new things. But if you know something's working, you kind of don't want to sway too far away from that. You want to do what is working at that time, but reinvent it. Reinventing yourself is important and something that you're constantly doing over and over again. So in cases of where it works, it's obviously Drake and 40, Eminem and Dr. Dre. Who else would I say was coming to my mind? Alchemist and Mobb Deep. They work really well together. Who else? Speaking of the Clips and Pharrell, they did amazing. When they're working together musically. There's a lot of examples where it just works. It works well. And then the examples of where it starts to go bad is Chief Keef and Young Chop.
Oh, that's a good example.
Yeah.
Yes.
When Chief Keef first came out.
About that.
Yeah, we talked about this earlier. When Chief Keef first came out, him and Young Chop were just hit after hit after hit, man. Love Sosa. Yeah. I don't like all these bangers. Just, Finally Rich was just such an amazing album to me.
Very good.
And then once Chief Keef swayed away from that, it seemed like the music just wasn't as impactful, as great to me. I mean, other people have different opinions, but that's just how I feel. So I think it's important, man, when you find, especially in music, when you find that person that you click with, you guys can make magic happen every single time.
40 made a good point where he said that when you're working with somebody and you're being so successful with that person and doing so well, why leave? Why work with other artists?
Yeah, I mentioned that earlier. Yeah. Why work?
Oh, I must have not.
Yeah.
Okay.
We didn't want to work with other artists. He said, I'm staying with Drake forever. Yeah. And then 40's influences in life, like he had a Jamaican friend that introduced him to hip hop. His Jamaican friend had like NWA tapes and classic hip hop albums, and that's how he got into hip hop. And then the influence of his older sisters, because all he had was older sisters.
I think that was more in R&B though.
No, they're like rock and like.
Oh yeah,
that type of R&B came even earlier. He said, I don't know from who. I think it's probably from his sisters. Like,
I think it was from his sister.
Yeah, but he said R&B came a lot earlier. But all that influence, and that even applied to me. If it wasn't for our sister listening to, a lot of this stuff, because she was the older one out of all of us.
She got us to Get Rich or Die Trying.
Exactly. So that influenced me to get into what I'm doing now. So influence plays a huge role when you're growing up too. Another thing that 40 touched on that I really liked, that a lot of artists can't do, but they can when it's to reach a certain level. They choose not to do it anymore because, I don't know, either they just don't care as much about the music. Is Drake doesn't care about the business aspect of music. He doesn't care about having to spend the extra money to clear samples, to fly out people that he needs for albums. And in the beginning of his career, he obviously wasn't the Drake that we know now. He was Lil Wayne's artist. That's what people referred to him as, and he didn't have much say. I remember in the Rap Radar interview that Drake did, he talked about being in the studio and there was a guy that wasn't letting Drake fly out 40, his engineer.
Oh, okay.
Because Drake was like, man, I need 40. I don't care. I don't want to use these other engineers. I need 40. But Drake was so small at the time when he was like, the guy was like, why would we fly out for this guy, dude? Like, who's Drake?
Yeah.
Like, why am I going to fly out 40? Like, dude, just work with the engineer we have here.
Yeah.
And Drake was like, dude, I need 40. And Lil Wayne, being the G that he is, he was like, man, whatever you Drake wants, get him. So they flew out 40 and let him work, with Drake. And that's, at the time when you're a new artist, you can't afford to do that. But luckily, Birdman and Wayne took care of that for Drake. But now Drake doesn't compromise in the business. If he has to pay somebody $500,000 to clear,
he'll go out his way to get what he wants
whatever.
done.
And the budget doesn't, and that's important, man. That's very important in whatever craft that you're doing.
Plays a big role.
Yeah, that's why Drake's been so hot for 11 years straight. He doesn't compromise the music. A lot of artists, to save money, will compromise the music. And that's a problem. I see that happen so many times with artists where, and I understand, man, because, Drake's making $100 million, blah, blah, blah. It's easy, man. To blow $500,000, $1 million on records here and there, now at this stage of his career is no problem. So I understand when certain artists can't do it. You can tell which ones can do it and they don't want to, or which ones can't do it and they want to badly. So there's a difference between the two. And I enjoyed, hearing that from
probably
40.
even a tax write-off too, man. Flying people, jets.
Yeah, all that, but
so
still.
It doesn't matter. Like, it's helping him in a way too.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think about that, So then
win-win situation.
Exactly. Yeah. So 40 then says, and this is what I liked from another part of the interview, he says longevity is doing something you're proud of. So clearly the music they made, they're proud of, they love it.
Definitely.
Anything you do in life, if you want longevity out of it, you got to be proud of what you're doing, enjoy it every day, so on and so forth. That's a given. Another thing he mentioned is how great of a producer Drake himself is. Yeah. And I was kind of surprised. Well, I wasn't really surprised. I guess you could say I'm kind of surprised by it. I wasn't really too surprised, though, because when you hear Drake talk about music, he has the lingo that producers use a lot when they talk. And he said Drake was creating a lot of the sounds, that muffled underwater sound that 40's known for. Drake was the one that kept telling him to do it. And that created Drake's own unique sound when he kept repeating it to 40. Hey, do it again, do this, do this. And that's what became their unique sound that 40 credits to Drake. And then he says Drake also made arguably ASAP's biggest hit. I want to look this up, see if it's his biggest hit.
Yes.
So ASAP, the record Fucking Problems with ASAP and Drake.
Love Bad Bitches.
Yeah, that song. Let me see.
So 2 Chainz was saying that part in a bar.
Yeah.
And then once that happened, Drake was like, hold up.
Yeah. So what happened was 2 Chainz sent him 8 bars, a verse.
Right.
Drake heard that Fucking Problems part. I like bad bitches. That's my fucking problem. He told 40, listen, that verse is dope, but take that part and loop it and make a whole beat and song out of it. And that song ended up being A$AP Rocky's. Let me see. I'm about to look right now. I'm sure it's his biggest hit. I'm almost willing to bet because there's no way it's not.
It is. I'm pretty sure it is it, man, to be honest. I don't think he had anything bigger than that. I remember seeing that. It peaked at like number 8 or something.
How come it's not? I hate the Billboard website, man.
Yeah,
it's always laggy and stupid. Let me see.
I think it was that.
Okay, there's a song so his actual song, it was the biggest. It peaked at number 8 on the Billboard Hot 100.
Right, that's right, yeah.
Yeah.
It was in 2013.
Yeah. So A$AP Rocky's biggest hit was given to him by Drake.
Damn, number 8? I thought it was...
No, that's a top 10.
I mean, that's good. That's top 10, but damn, I got a fucking problem.
I mean, shit, man. What else do you want? The fact that Drake gave him that, and that's what 40's saying, and that reiterates the fact that Drake, man, people say Drake can't write. Drake, this proves it, that, man. He gave this guy a whole hit record, his biggest hit, ever.
He's giving way too many people hit records.
That's what I'm saying. As a producer, I want Drake, if he stops making music, I want him to go into the executive producer side.
Yeah, he should definitely.
I think he would fucking kill it, man. We saw what 50 did with Pop Smoke, and that album. Pop Smoke, actually, speaking of Pop Smoke, his album's about to go back to number 1. He's actually fighting with 21 Savage right now for the number 1 spot. 60,000 copies each.
Both selling?
Yeah, 60,000 each.
Wow.
But 21 Savage just came out.
Just came out, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was about to say.
Pop Smoke's been out since July 3rd.
That's impressive.
Yeah, he's about to hit number 1 back again and 50 executive produced album. So obviously the execution on that is good. I would love 50 executive produced albums, but he doesn't give a shit anymore. We're going to talk about that in a little bit.
Man.
So
mad about that.
Drake as a producer, man, executive producer, I want to hear that. I want to hear what sonically he can bring to the table without having to rap on it. Hopefully that's the next path in his career, but he said he wants to be an actor. So